All right, you and me, let's do this. Physics exam's coming up, and I know motion can be a real headache. So think of this as our last-minute cram session. We're going to break it all down so you can walk in there and totally ace it. Ready? Let's get started.
Okay, first question, right out of the gate. Look at the walls of the room you're in, right now. Are they moving, or are they standing still? Seems like a super simple question, right? But the answer is, it's complicated. And that little complication is pretty much the key to everything we're about to talk about.
So here's our game plan. We're going to figure out if anything is ever really still. We'll talk about point of view, nail the difference between distance and displacement, that's a big one, then look at steady versus choppy motion, and wrap it all up with a little pop quiz to see what's stuck. Let's go! All right, let's dive into that first point. Is anything ever really still? The whole reason that question about the walls is so tricky is because of this one big idea, relative motion. Basically, you can't just say something is moving. You have to say what it's moving relative to. I mean, think about it. You see this all the time without even realizing it. You know the wind is blowing because you see dust flying or tree branches swaying, right? It's the same idea with this classic bus example. If you're on the bus, looking out the window, those trees on the side of the road look like they're zipping backward. But if you're standing on the street corner, the trees are just trees. They're not moving. You, on the bus, are the one who's moving forward. So, who's right? Well, the crazy thing is, they both are. It's all about your point of view.
So you can see how this could get super confusing, right? To get around that, scientists needed a system. They needed to agree on a fixed starting line, something we can all call still. And that's what we call a frame of reference.
This fixed spot is our reference point or the origin. Just think of it like an anchor. It's the one thing we all agree isn't going anywhere. So if you say, the school is 2 kilometers north of the railway station, boom, you've just used the railway station as your origin. It's your starting block, and everything else is measured from there.
Okay, deep breaths. We're heading into the big one. This is the concept that messes with everyone's head on the exam. Distance versus displacement. I'm telling you, if you can lock this down, you are golden. This is the main event for sure.
So let's put them side by side. On one hand, you've got distance. That's the total path you traveled, every single step. The best way to think of it is the odometer in a car. It just keeps adding up no matter which way you turn. It's just a number. But then you have displacement. This is the shortcut. It's the straight line from where you started to where you ended. That's it. And, this is the key, it has to have a direction. It's not just how far, it's how far in what direction.
All right, enough with the definitions. Let's see this in action. Picture this. A car starts at the origin, we'll call it point O. It drives a straight 60 kilometers to a spot we'll call A. Then it hits the brakes, makes a U-turn, and drives 35 kilometers back in the other direction, stopping at point C. So let's figure out the distance it traveled first.
Okay, distance is the easy part. It's literally just adding up the two parts of the trip. You went 60 kilometers out and you came 35 kilometers back. So 60 plus 35, that's 95 kilometers. That's what your car's odometer would say. Easy peasy. But what about the displacement?
And this is where it gets interesting. See, displacement doesn't care about the scenic route you took. It doesn't care about that U-turn at all. It only asks two questions. Where did you start and where did you end? The car started at kilometer 0, it ended at the 25-kilometer mark. So the displacement is simply 25 kilometers. All that driving back and forth? For displacement, it's like it never happened.
This is the mind-bending part, and it's so important to get. It means you can have a situation where the displacement is 0, but the distance is, well, not 0. Imagine running one full lap around a track. You just ran 400 meters, right? Your legs are tired. Your distance is 400 meters. But because you ended up in the exact same spot where you started, your displacement is 0. Nothing. Zilch. Crazy, right?
Okay, so we've got a handle on where things are and how far they've gone. Now let's talk about the style of that movement. Was it a nice, smooth cruise, or was it herky-jerky, stop and go? That's the difference between what we call uniform and non-uniform motion. It's actually pretty simple when you think about it. Uniform motion is just super steady, super predictable. It covers the exact same amount of ground in the same chunk of time over and over. The perfect example is a car with the cruise control set on a totally empty highway. Non-uniform motion, that's real life. That's being in city traffic. You speed up, you slow down, you stop for a red light. In any given minute, you're covering all sorts of different distances.
Okay,
Let's put on our data scientist hats for a second. Here's a table tracking two different objects, A and B. It's showing us how far each one has traveled at different 15-minute intervals. Your job is to figure out which one of these is our steady, uniform mover.
Just take a look, scan the numbers. Which one looks clean, predictable? Let's trace object A. From 9:30 to 9:45, it goes from 10 to 20 meters. That's a 10-meter jump. From 9:45 to 10, it goes from 20 to 30, another 10 meters. See the pattern? It's perfectly consistent. Now look at object B. It goes up by 7, then 4, then 12. It's all over the place. So object A is our winner for uniform motion.
All right, we've made it to the final round. Time for a pop quiz. This is where we see if all this stuff has really sunk in. I'm pulling this question straight from the textbook's review section, so this is the real deal.
Here we go. Let's say an object has definitely moved. We know for a fact it has traveled some distance. So here's the question. Can its displacement be 0? Think about it for a second. We just talked about this.
The answer is yes, totally possible. And our track runner is the perfect example. That athlete runs a whole lap. The distance covered, 400 meters, no doubt about it. But they end up right back where they started. So the displacement, that straight line from start to finish, is 0 because there's no distance between the start and finish point. They're the same.
And really, that's the whole point of this study session. The big idea is that motion is way more than just how far you went. It's not just about the number on your Fitbit or your car's odometer. To really understand it, you have to know where you ended up relative to where you began.
Okay, so now we know how to describe motion, but what about how fast it's happening? How do we measure the rate of that motion? Well, that leads us right into the next major concept you'll see on the test, the difference between speed and velocity. But we'll save that for the next review. You got this. Go crush that exam.